everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at you. And I'll probably do most of the talking today. Devin's still kind of battling the sickness. Seems like a lot.
The battle belongs to the Lord.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But yeah, we've actually had just a couple of days of just kind of rest days, and we really, I think both of us needed it. I'm also still dealing with some stuff, but it's been super mild for me as far as health-wise. Yeah, colds, things like that.
Soul stuff.
Yeah, no.
That's actually good news coming up right here.
Yeah.
Go.
But we just wanted to share with you kind of some of the things that God's been speaking to us really since last night, specifically, and I just think that it will be really encouraging for you guys. So last night I was leading God Time, and pretty much right before God Time I was pretty tired, and I was just like, Lord, I don't have anything. And so I just I was like, will you please just help me? And then, I didn't really get anything, but I was just like, all right, let me just...
No angelic visitations?
No.
No glory
Not
cloud? No Shekinah?
No.
Nothing like that?
No.
Okay.
So last night, I was just like, okay, Lord, I need your help. And so I just picked out some songs. We usually do, worship, Bible, and prayer. And so I just picked out a couple of songs that I was like, okay, I think these would be cool to do. We haven't done them in a while. And then I was like, well, I don't really know what to do for the Bible, but I'll just go on with what we had been doing. We were reading through some of Exodus, so I was like, all right, well, I'll cue that up. Everything's all set up, and we started our God Time. We started worship, and as we did the first song, it was the song "Hungry," and it's like, "Hungry, I come to you." Basically, for I know you satisfy. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. We went through that song, and then the next song came up. I don't even remember the name of that song.
It's Testify by Need to Breathe.
Oh, yeah.
Come to the fountain and...
You can,
like
and then, but even, come to the fountain and you can be satisfied.
Yeah.
And so by the second song, I was just like, wow, I feel like...
You were like, that's it?
That's satisfied. Like, God wants to talk about satisfied. And so I had picked out 3 songs, but I was like, that third song, no, let's just focus on these 2, because I really felt like God was like, I want to focus on being satisfied. And so we pretty much just had this big discussion about being satisfied in the Lord and finding our satisfaction in Him.
You just need to go straight to the testimony right there.
So basically,
because this was awesome.
It was so awesome. So I really, as Devin was talking, it was almost as if these, like, I could only describe it as, with like Paul, when he gets his eyes healed, there's these scales that just come off of his eyes. And I felt like it was like that for me. It was like there was just this melting away, and it was just like
and you
scales.
Were feeling
like
it.
I was actually feeling
it and experiencing it and everything.
And what it was God was just showing me, even in small ways, because I think overall it's like, all right, Lord, I'm okay, like, going through this process that we're going through. But God was just showing me, it's like my heart was still holding on to the fulfillment of things and the life that it would give way to. That's where I was trying to find my satisfaction.
Only in the promised land will you have life.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah, that was the idea. And so it was just like God was showing me His, like, and just, it was, I don't even know how to explain it, because it was just like, and all of a sudden I could just see it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I still am like trying to find satisfaction, putting my hope of being fully satisfied in the life that's yet to come. And it was just like, I just prayed right then. I was just like, Lord, I give that to you.
Yeah, you're like, let's just stop.
Yeah, I was like, I just need to respond to this. Like, Lord, I give that to you, and I just find full satisfaction. And for me personally, it was like I just realized, you know what? I have fullness of life right now. And it's like, wow, you know what? In some ways, it's like we're not in a desert. I'm not in a desert, personally. It's like we're really in pools of water because we're in the pools of life of God. And it's like, yes, what he takes you through can be times where he's asking you to put down a lot of things. I mean, really, like we've
put down everything.
A lot, yeah.
Our entire life, basically.
And even just allowing God to bring us through seasons where there are no friends. It's like, oh, who do you talk? Oh, nobody. Who's your best friend? Don't have one. I mean, apart from.
What do you do for a living?
Us.
This.
Yeah. and
that's what we do for a living.
But it was just like, I don't know. For me, there was no, man, this is what we're doing. No, it was just like, oh my gosh, like we have fullness of life and joy. We cannot be any more in the Lord than we already are.
Right.
Like his place is right here, right now.
It's called a revelation.
And it's like there was just this complete shift in my mind of thinking like, oh, you're gonna have more of the Lord later on when this is like
more life
or more of anything. It's like, no, I have fullness. And the scripture, it talks about like we have the fullness of God. He is, when we go to him, come all you who are hungry and thirsty, and it's like he will satisfy you. There's like, it's not, well, he'll kind of satisfy you, but once you get to a certain place in your life, then you'll be satisfied. It's like, no, he's saying, I can fully satisfy you every single day of your life, no matter where you are. So that's what God was sharing last night. And I'm telling you what, like, it was just so profound for me because I didn't realize.
Go ahead.
I didn't realize that that's what I was really doing. And for me, it wasn't so much it's really, for me personally, it was the kind of life, the being able to do things. I'm very much like I love
activities person.
To do activities.
Very much like our daughter.
To go places and see things. And it was like I was waiting, just like, all right, I can't wait for that life to start. And it's not
like God doesn't have that for you. It's just to find life in that. Now God has a problem. He's like, no, we can't. I can't let you think that.
It's like, here, let me change your idea and say you can wake up in the morning saying like, wow, I am fully satisfied in the Lord, even in a desert place.
It's like, why is everyone else getting married and I'm not? I really want to get married because this is what my life's going to be like when I get married. And God's like, well, hold on. It's not that marriage isn't God's will for you. It's just you can't. He's not going to release you to get married if that's your life. I got to have that. I have to have that. You know, and it's just like, no. We were talking about that also, about the difference between a longing and a craving. See, a craving is something that is of lust, and it will never be satisfied. It's of the flesh. But a longing can almost look and feel the same way as a craving. But it's like a longing, but once that longing is fulfilled, it's like, oh, I'm good. Satisfied, tree of life. You know, because God has longings. You know, he's not craving for things. He's longing for things. But that's another video. Let us know if you want to do a special video on the longings and the cravings. You go.
And so actually we were talking last night as well as looking at the Israelites. And why was it that, you know, they didn't find their satisfaction in God. They were finding their satisfaction in everything else other than him. Everything that God gave them. And it was like... And they still weren't satisfied. They could have found satisfaction in the wilderness, in that they could be satisfied with what God had already done. They could be satisfied with what he was currently doing and be satisfied in what he was yet to do. Because he told them, he said, I'm bringing you out of bondage and into a land flowing with milk and honey. Well, then why are we here in the desert? And it's like, well... It's really boring. There's nothing to do. We want something to do. Yeah.
I'm speaking from like familial experience right now. We want something to do. It's like, what? We give you guys stuff to do like all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, when are you going to be satisfied?
Mm-hmm. And so we were just talking about really and how do you get to a place of satisfaction? Well, I think it's just that yielding your heart to the Lord, and then He brings revelation. And also part of that is having thanksgiving, being thankful for what God has done. You know, the Israelites, when they were in the desert, they weren't starving. They had manna, they had quail, they had, water coming from a rock.
Miracles, it was every day,
miracles every day. Constantly, and the Lord was leading them by a pillar of fire or by the cloud. And it's like they had a constant hey, the Lord is leading us, He's taking us forward, and yet they still were just completely dissatisfied, because they weren't looking to the Lord to satisfy their longings.
They didn't care. They really didn't. And they were just so self-centered. It was so much about it was like a bondage, but it was almost like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just it was all about them. That's all that they cared about. And it's almost like they didn't want to get out of that. They didn't even recognize it as a problem. Maybe some of them did, but it was like they didn't even recognize it as an issue. It was just like, we don't care. We're just about ourselves and what we want.
Yeah. And
it's like, man, we've been dealing with that with our kids lately. They're not like the Israelites by any stretch, but there's seeds in all of us that can lead to that if we keep watering it with our complaint and our whining and our moaning and our how long, Lord, all that mess.
Yeah.
And it's like, we deal with our kids, but then we think, wow, you're like little adults, basically, is what you are. You're like little versions. You're little mini figures of adults, right?
Yeah. So it was so cool because we were, we were just talking about the satisfaction of the Lord pretty much the entire evening. And so we were just talking, and basically there were some other cool things that were happening. I'm not going to go into those, but ultimately we received the number 135. And so immediately we're like, Joah, a long time ago, had been seeing the number 135, and we looked up Hebrews 13:5. So I just wanted to read that to you. So Devin's going to read it for us.
Technically, I will be reading it to you. Okay.
It's Hebrews 13:5.
I get to do something here. Okay. Okay, it says, let your character or moral disposition be free from love of money, including greed, avarice, lust, and craving for earthly possessions, and be satisfied with your present circumstances and with what you have. For He, God Himself, has said, so He's giving you a reason of why you can be satisfied. For He, God Himself, has said, I will not in any way fail you, nor give you up, nor leave you without support. I will not in any degree leave you helpless, nor forsake, nor let you down. Relax my hold on you, assuredly not. And if you look at the in the Kenneth, Woost word studies, the three negatives precede the verb in the I will not. So basically he was saying, I will not.
Yeah.
It's like, I will not do that. Basically he said it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like.
And so it was just so cool because we basically are ending the night, and here's this scripture, and it's talking about being satisfied in the Lord. And it just, I was just like, wow, Lord, you are just so amazing, because He's just, again, placing it in our hearts, be satisfied in me. And the truth is, when you are satisfied in the Lord, everything else is just overflow, and it's like, when we were talking with our kids, how awesome is it when, you are satisfied and you just receive more. And it's like, wow, this is so amazing, because what happens when you're not satisfied is that I think fear and anxiety and all this other stuff can enter in, because you're afraid of, let's just say you really desire to have a home. Well, if you that's the thing you think is going to make you satisfied, well, even when you receive it, I think it's going to come with fear. It's going to come with being afraid that it could be taken away, being afraid of, like, well, how long am I going to be here? How long is this going to fulfill me? Or an example, a lot of times, or like let's just say you really want to go to the zoo. Well, you're so anxious about, like, I can't wait until I go to the zoo. That's the only place that I'm going to feel satisfied. And so you're anxious the whole time building up to it. And they finally get to go. But then you're anxious about the fact that it's going to eventually end.
You are totally speaking from experience as a mommy.
Yes.
I'm like, wait, the zoo? Who cares about the zoo watching our channel? I'm like, oh, I see where you're going there.
Yeah.
I see where you're going.
And so it's like your whole, you can't enjoy it. There's no joy. You can't just be at peace and at rest going to the zoo and experiencing it. Whereas if you were fully satisfied with just life and being at peace, and then you get to go to the zoo, it's like, oh my gosh, this is just so awesome. Like, it's like a cherry on top of your sundae.
Yeah,
it's like you already have the sundae.
Well,
but
it's like when we knew we were going to get married. Mm-hmm. We just knew we were going to get married. I mean, within like I don't know, weeks or something.
Yeah.
It was, you knew like the first day, and then you told me 9 days later, and I was just like, wow, this is the Lord. Because any other person that you would have told that to would have been like,
well, and
the other direction.
I would never have done that, I think, with any other person.
That's true. But we knew, and the Lord was like, okay, now that you know, that's great. Let's put that wedding stuff on the shelf.
Yeah.
And it was such a word of wisdom, because it was like, that stuff will consume you.
Yeah.
And you won't get to know each other.
Yeah.
And we did. We really committed. It wasn't even a hard thing.
No.
It was just like, okay, let's not even think about it. Let's not even.
That.
But things started, we had to deal with logistics, and things were progressing, and stuff was being taken care of in a whole other state outside of us, and we were in Indiana.
Yeah.
The wedding stuff was getting taken care of in Nevada and Reno. So we really had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's the situation we're in right now.
Yeah.
It's just like there's stuff being taken care of in a whole nother state. We got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
This is gonna happen. So he had to get himself in the video.
Yeah.
He he does that at night too. He'll just wake up after 10 minutes and then he'll just like lay on you or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I know you said you didn't want to share why the 135 came up, but I was thinking maybe we could. I mean, people are used to our long videos anyway, but I was thinking we could share the Lincoln thing.
Yeah,
you know? Okay, so I am a huge UFC fan, huge, and the most recent UFC they had was UFC Fight Night 135. But we didn't know this till the very end.
Yeah.
That's why we got the 135, and I was asking Lord, I was like, Lord, is there something to this also that maybe? And then I was like, immediately I was reminded of Hebrews 13:5. So let's go back to the beginning. But it was they don't do the numbers to fight nights anymore. They just tell you the location. So it was UFC Fight Night Lincoln. And I was like, Lincoln? I mean, and as soon as I saw that, it was almost like, I don't know if you guys have seen Finding Dory, but like Dory just has this mental trigger, and she goes to the past, and she's like, oh my gosh, I remember, and she remembers. Yeah. She remembers her mom, and that's the whole thing. That's the inciting incident that they call it in writing that launches the whole story. She remembers, and I saw that UFC Lincoln, and it reminded me, it took me back almost a year ago now?
Yeah, it's probably almost a year ago.
We were in this deep, deep, deep place of prayer, and it was it was intense. The Lord was all over it. And in the midst of all that, it was the weirdest experience at the time. Now I wouldn't think it was so weird, but at the time I thought it was really weird, because this guy named Lincoln from Agents of Shield.
Yeah, the character.
The character. His name was Lincoln in the show. He comes like around this corner. He's like in this empty apartment. A particular scene in the show. I know, I'm familiar with it. But he comes around the corner and he just looks at me. He just kind of stares at me in the face, and I'm just like, what? I was like, oh man, we're getting too deep in the spirituality of things. My imagination is going, but I really felt like it was actually the Lord.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, you know, because I mean, God had just started introducing us to the whole numbers phenomenon,
yeah.
and how He can use that to really help, you know, lead you and give you like little hints and help you pay attention to what He's saying. That's why God uses the numbers anyway.
Yeah.
He really wants you to pay attention to something. And then Lincoln just came up and he just stared at me in a vision. I was just like, okay. And I think we even made a video about it.
Yeah, I think probably some of you, if you were watching during that time, might even remember this because it was something you mentioned and we had some people commenting like, oh, maybe it has something to do with like the Lincoln lawyer and stuff like
and
that.
I thought of that, but I just felt like the Lord was like,
and it was just kind of like, okay, and nothing ever really seemed to come of it. Yeah. But it was one of those things that, like, I mean, we put it on a Post-it note. It's in our journal. Yeah. Which are actually in storage right now. But I told Devin, I was like, I kind of want to go find it so we know.
Just take an Uber ride just to get those journals.
When did we get that? And it was just like, whoa, because it really stood out to us. Yeah. And what's interesting is that this particular fight, they called it the legendary Lincoln.
Yeah, because it was crazy.
Yeah.
Because fight night is usually like, it's almost like, not quite, but kind of, it's like preseason football. Yeah. You don't expect any of those games to be good. Yeah. They're all just auditioning for real season positions, right?
So you'd probably get like a lot of fights that end in decision, or they're just not that great.
Lots of fights end in decision.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get maybe a couple knockouts, maybe a couple submissions, maybe. But man, Fight Night Lincoln was just knockout after knockout after submission after knockout.
Yeah, there was a total of 9 submissions and knockouts. And it's like,
yeah, and only like 4 decisions.
Yeah.
In a fight night. People pay for we looked at UFC pay-per-view events and you know, the most recent ones. They didn't even have those kind of results.
No.
And it was just like, It was like, we don't need to pay for that. But this is the kind of thing people would have paid for. When you think MMA, when you think UFC, I want to see a fight. All of these fights were the kind of fights where you're like, wow, that was amazing. Yeah. And then the way it ended, was just phenomenal with just the way it ended. The last fight it really was the cherry.
Well, basically
on the icing of the cake. And
yeah, like, was it in the first round?
First round knockout.
Yeah, first round knockout. And this wasn't just like, okay, knocked out. No, he was like out.
He did not know his last name for like.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, it was crazy.
I mean, it was amazing.
And for me personally, like, Devin was watching some of the highlights and stuff of it, and it kept showing like all these knockouts. I'm like, this isn't normal. Like, I mean.
Like, does that normally happen? I'm like, no.
I was like, no. I'm like, I'm pretty
for a
sure.
Fight night. No, it doesn't happen.
And so, I don't know. We just really felt like God, he was saying something in that. Like, because he's always used us, like, used UFC with us.
Always.
It's kind of funny. But.
It's funny because even during this time that I got the Lincoln thing, that was during the time where, that was at the same time where God was using the UFC to talk about, like, a shifting then, like a huge shifting was taking place. Remember? Yeah. It was back
UFC 217. That was in November when like a lot of there's like a lot of dethroning.
Yeah, that's what it was. Oh, so that was later on.
Yeah, that was later.
Yeah, that was later on. My bad.
But but yeah, so it was just like, whoa, and the fact that they called it it's legendary Lincoln, and I personally felt like, in a way, that God was just saying, like, hey, you know, kind of get ready for this, like, legendary thing that he's getting ready to do. And
with
like
an epic ending.
With an epic ending where this like the knockout punch of the Lord is like gonna send the enemy going, whoa, I don't even know my name. Like, what what in the world has just happened?
Well, and what I saw in it, and I was like, it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. Like a bolt of lightning. No, little Doc Brown there. Anyway, but I was like, oh my gosh, you know what this is, Michelle? This is a complete reversing. Mm-hmm. This is a reverse of what normally happens.
Yeah.
Normally, I took her back to other fight nights, and it was like decision.
Yeah.
Submission. Decision. Knockout decision.
Yeah.
That's usually what it is, especially with fight nights. A lot of times, that's what it is with pay-per-view events.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just like, wow, this is a complete reversing. And I just felt like the Lord was reminding us of that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is a complete reversing. And I was just like, but why, Lord? Why are we making this connection? And with UFC, why is it always with the UFC? So we thought it was just very significant.
Yeah.
It jumped out at me right as I saw it.
Yeah.
And it was actually a couple days before UFC or the Fight Night Lincoln even took place. I had that Dory moment, a couple days before the event. And but then it's just like, man, what is it with the Lincoln thing? And so just like the numbers, just like the whole how we see numbers, and just the Lord, the Holy Spirit, you guys, will highlight these things, and it's amazing because He can do that.
Yeah.
And then I just I was looking through Netflix, right?
Yeah.
No, actually, I saw Lincoln on some other thing too, and it was just like, hey, Lincoln.
Yeah.
And this was before the fight.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then I think it was after the fight.
Yeah, and that's really what started
scrolling through
Netflix, and you saw
I was looking
Lincoln.
for Lord of the Rings, and I was like, where's Lord of the Rings? I can't find it. I looked Lord of the Rings, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And I just did one little scroll up, and there was the movie Lincoln
about like
and
Abraham
it was just like
Lincoln.
bam, right in my face, and I was like,
yeah, and that's kind of what kind of started our whole conversation about it.
I was like, what is going on? And I just felt like in the spirit, it was almost like, I just feel like this is something God just wants me to see.
Yeah, take notice.
There are some things that we really felt like we got from it, but it was like, I just want you to see this. Mm-hmm. Which is funny because that's exactly what happened in that vision that I got. Yeah. Lincoln just came around the corner and he just looked at me. Mm-hmm. He didn't say nothing. There was he just looked. It was almost like, I just want you to see it.
Yeah.
I just want you to see. And I'm just like, okay. And then that Fight Night Lincoln happened, and last night, I'm watching a movie that I would never watch. I mean, it's almost girly. It's like girly meets Marvel Cinematic Universe in some way, and it was just like, and Samuel L. Jackson was in it doing his, normal tough role type thing, and I was like, oh, let me check this out, and I was kind of getting drawn into the story a little bit, and I was like, this is kind of dumb, but whatever, why am I, and it was almost like, why am I sitting here even watching this? What is the purpose of this? But I was like, well, I just want to see what happens to her next. What happened? Oh, how is she going to handle that? And I got to this point where I was just like, okay, I'm kind of done. I'm gonna be done. But then there was this incident that happened within the movie that caused the character to have to react. And then she broke a little bit from her little covert thing that she was doing, and she started beating up these people. But it turned out they were just sophomores from a rival high school. And then this is what I'm about ready to be done. But then this incident happens. Like, oh wait, let me just see this real quick. And so she starts beating him up, and it's just like, okay, well, I've seen this 100 times before. And the guy and I'm getting ready to click off. That's the important part of it. And he's like, don't worry. He's like, don't hurt me. I'm just a sophomore from Lincoln. I was like, what? I was like, are you serious? And in that moment, I was like, Lord, did you do this? Did you just direct my mind to watch this ridiculous movie just so I could get to this place where I'm not saying that happened. I'm not saying that didn't happen either. But I'm just saying, like, wow. Yeah. And so, as far as that goes, we're still in the kind of like, okay, Lord, we want like, more. Lord,
we want more of what you're saying.
Like, of all things, Lincoln. And I was just like, wow. I gave up a long time ago trying to figure it out. You can't.
Yeah.
Either the Lord's going to reveal it or direct you or not.
And I think, too, like, if anything, like, it's shown us that God can speak to you about something.
Way in advance.
And it's way in advance. And so it's like, you can't just say, well, God said this and it's not happening. why is it not happening? Oh, I must have either not heard from the Lord or something like that. It's like, I think there are things that God's just like, hey, I want you to see this. Just tuck it away in your heart, because it could be years later that he shows you the revelation of it.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it a greater revelation. You know, I really don't think that this particular UFC would have stood out as much as it did if we hadn't had that name from over almost a year ago, you know, like sitting there, and it's like, whoa, like this is significant.
Yeah, there's something significant about it, and we're still kind of in process
of
with
like,
it. But it was
Lord,
like, wow,
what are you
something's
trying
going
to say?
on.
You know.
So, fast forward to this morning, and it was really interesting because I went to bed last night and I had one of those really amazing face-to-face conversations with the Lord. He helped me overcome some mental stuff that can sometimes get in the way of how I relate to the Lord, but I woke up this morning because last night was just total peace and satisfaction. It was just like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like, we just didn't care about anything.
Yeah.
It's not that we were lacking desire for anything. It's not that we weren't like, yeah, we want the promises of God to come to pass. It wasn't any of that.
No.
It was just, we were totally satisfied. It's like, you want to leave us here for another however long? Okay, that's fine. Because we know it's not your will to leave us here in the desert.
Yeah, we know that it's just, we're going from the desert into
the promised land.
Land.
So it's like, in a sense, it's like, yes, our spirits are in a pool.
Yeah.
But our soul can still be in the desert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a sense of like, because I woke up in a sense of, I don't know how to explain it. It was just like, I couldn't move inside.
Mm-hmm.
Like inside, I was completely immobilized. That's where I was in my soul, you know? I was just completely immobile. And I'm just like, Lord, what is this? Like, why is this? I mean, you know where we were at last night. That's where I've been. I mean, that's where you've been taking me for the past 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting go. And I've been seeing the fruit of just letting go, just constantly letting go. You know, and it's just like, I haven't been praying for the dream house and that life and the promised land, because I'm completely satisfied. I just know that the wilderness for us is not where God has us for forever. It's like, I know we're going to the other side, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not even a debate. It's just like, all right, I know that. So then why do I still feel like this? It's like, I actually feel the worst in my soul than I ever have. I'm talking like Garden of Gethsemane, deeply grieved to the point of sorrow. I think I might die. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Not quite like Jesus, but that kind. I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then the Lord began to show me stuff like that, about how he was grieved and how he was longing, you know, in times past. And he reminded me of the Garden of Gethsemane, when he said, my soul is deeply troubled and grieved to the point of death.
Yeah.
To the point where I feel like I might die of sorrow. I'm like, wow. Now that's Jesus. Okay. I feel a little better. Because if Jesus felt that way, then it's maybe okay for me to feel this way. But it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And God was just showing me, see, there's a division between the spirit and the soul. That's what the Word of God does. It divides between the spirit and our spirits are like seated with Christ in heavenly places. We're in the joy of the Lord. Yeah. But our soul, it can be in a desert place, and it's like, I'm like, but Lord, why is that? I really don't understand. Mm-hmm. Why is that? And he took me back to that video I did. I mean, we're repeating a lot of stuff from about a year ago now.
Yeah.
But that video I did about there will be healing in the revealing. God gave me that word. There will be healing in the revealing. So that means there's going to be things that need to be healed. Yeah. And God has shown us many times, like our family, we're dry, our skin cracked.
Yeah.
We've got some scars, and God's like, I'm going to heal all that. But he knew all of that was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know? So I think it's okay to be super high in the spirit, but like, just as Jesus was, he knew who he was, but then have your soul just be in a place that's just like, wow, God, you're going to have to rescue me. You know? So I know there's a hodgepodge of things going on here that we were sharing. I mean, it's been 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, we got stuff to share, but we just hope that this has encouraged you.
Yeah.
That you can be, there's nothing wrong with you if you're completely satisfied and confident, you're trusting in the Lord and all that, but your heart and your soul is just deeply grieved.
Yeah.
It's because you haven't got the promise yet.
Yeah.
You haven't got the desire fulfilled yet. Your hope's deferred, and it's like you see a prophetic word and you go, oh, all right, Lord, I'm going to just agree with it. I believe you're speaking that, I'm going to agree with it, but I feel like I'm going to die. You know? But it's like the Lord knows where we're at. He gets where we're at, and He's already put provision in the Word to let you know, hey, I know where you're at, and I still have the answer for you.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get there, you know? Well, He decided to wake up. But anyway, we do hope you guys are encouraged by this. And one of the other, when I was between edits here, one of the other scriptures the Lord reminded me about this morning was, I think it's John 12:27, where Jesus was like, he was distressed in his soul and he was kind of grieved. And he's like, well, what shall I say to, he was like, my soul is distressed and grieved. What shall I say then? Father, deliver me from this hour. And he's like, because it was for this very hour that I was come into the world, that I might go through it.
Yeah.
And it's like the Lord, I don't understand all of why, are you giving him a wave? I don't understand all of why God has taken us through what He's taken us through. But the bottom line is, God has purposed for us to go through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see, they were brought out of Egypt through the wilderness into the promised land.
Yeah.
You see? And even in that, you see God who was in Egypt, who is in the wilderness, and who will be with us in the promised land. But the bottom line is, it's a with us type of thing. And it's like that wilderness was their hallway.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bedroom. It wasn't a home. It wasn't, there was nothing there. It was just a hallway. It was like I want you to cancel everything about life, cancel everything about what was, and come with me into the wilderness and let's just meet face to face, just me and you. Mm-hmm. That's literally been our life.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, we're not staying here.
No.
We're going into a promised land, a land that was promised. God spoke and said, this is what I'm going to do. That's what we're going into.
Yeah.
So it's like you go through it. Jesus he's not still up on the cross.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's like he wasn't meant to just stay up there. He had to go through it.
Yeah. And that was what God really was reminding me of this morning too, is just that how did Jesus go through it? Well, it was because of the joy that was set before him.
Yeah.
It was what he had been promised by the Father himself. That's how the Son, Jesus, could go through all these things. And it's like, how can we go through what God has asked us to go through? Well, it's because of the promises that God has given us. He's placed joy in front of us. And he's saying, now just go through this with me. And he's right there with us, which is, the last few weeks he's been talking about that. Like, he is with us and walking with us. And that's where we find the satisfaction. It's like we find the satisfaction that God himself is with us in all things. We can have everything that we need each and every day.
That's crazy. God is with us. I mean, the Father was with the Son as well.
Yeah.
But it's like there was still a joy set before them. Mm-hmm. What was the joy? Well, what did he do? Well, the joy that was set before them was the fulfillment of a vision he started before sin.
Yeah.
Having an earth full of the glory of the Lord and have it populated with people who knew him and walked with him, and he just could never have enough relationships. It's just that's what he wants. A full kingdom is his glory,
Yeah.
And so what's the joy set before us? Well, similarly, and we're part of that process. But also one of the joys set before us is the things that he has promised us that's got us happy and excited.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to promise, or I'm not even going to let the enemy come in and pretend to be me with the promise and just let that slide.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So in light of that, it is okay to be completely satisfied in God and trust in him, but have a soul that's like distressed.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. Don't think that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
If there was something wrong with you, then there was something wrong with Jesus, because he went through it himself.
Yeah.
And it's not. And so I'm just trying to summarize all these things, but it's like my brain's not always working right now. So. But anyway, any closing thoughts? Thank you guys for the support, as always. We've tried to get back to doing comments again, actually.
Yeah.
Reading some and responding to some. It's really cool reading the comments. Some comments are weird, but that's okay. But other than that, that's all I had. Did you have?
No, we just want to, again, just pray that you guys are encouraged, that God would just come in and just give revelation to you as well, of just to be what it truly means to be satisfied in Him and to walk with Him each and every day. And again, just big thank you for all who continue to help support us, and you really truly are just the provision of God in our life right now. And so you are
the miracle in the desert, for real.
Yeah, so
it is amazing to us every day.
Yeah,
we always get surprises, and it's just like, wow, really? Like, we really needed that right then, you know?
Yeah, so we just so appreciate all of you.
Yep.
And until next time, we will see you later.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.